Cormac for his very insightful thought there. And next up, we have our first interactive interview of the day, and I'm delighted to be joined by Matthew Gardiner, who is Head of Marketing and External Communications at IAG Cargo. Matthew has 15 years of experience working in both travel and aviation. In 2013, Matthew was recognized as one of the travel industry's top 30 under 30s by Tomorrow Travel Leaders. In June 2017, Matthew became London Director / co-leader at Travel Massive. Matthew still holds this title nearly 4 years later. Matthew, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Daniel. Great to be speaking with you this morning.
Perfect. So, Matthew, we'll start this morning by asking, what has been the biggest challenge of the pandemic to air cargo operators?
One of the biggest challenges of the pandemic for the air cargo sector has been capacity. And that's because, interestingly, around 95% of the air cargo that comes into the UK arrives in the belly hold of passenger aircraft, where you'll find essential medicines, food supplies, car parts, microchips. And so, as passenger aircraft were grounded across the world, our teams had to adapt very quickly to find capacity solutions for our customers. And we responded by rapidly developing one of the most comprehensive networks of scheduled cargo-only flying available, utilizing the group's passenger aircraft, and in turn, ensuring IAG Cargos' role in supporting global trade and the movement of essential supplies. Talking of essential supplies, we transported more than 20,000 tons of PPE in 2020. We were also very quick to offer our customers and governments the opportunity to charter IAG's aircraft. And we even established a new charter team as part of our response to COVID-19. Bespoke capacity solutions like charters are still proving to be very popular with customers. We've done a lot for the automotive sector in the first few months of this year. And then to create even more capacity for cargo, we even removed the seats from 5 aircraft.
Perfect. And operating charters was something that IAG hadn't done, but IAG Cargo hadn't done before. What challenges did that bring in itself?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We'd never chartered aircraft before, and charters definitely brought their own challenges, Daniel. To support in the fight against COVID-19, we had to stand up entirely new operations in airports we'd never flown to before. In one case, in partnership with Aer Lingus, actually, we set out an operation out of Berlin to provide islands, hospitals, and medical facilities with crucial PPE in just 7 days. Hats off to all involved. It was a really impressive effort what our teams were able to achieve. Now, doing something like that in 7 days, you've got the permissions, the permits, the landing slots. Then you've got to coordinate a brand new supply chain, source a ground handler. Then we had to get the ULDs, the loading devices, which the cargo goes in, and we had to get them transported to that airport from another airport in China. And that was a time when there was all sorts of road restrictions in place as well. Then once you've got those, you've got the cargo to the plane. With charters, when we were doing cabin loading as well, that's a completely different process, because you're lifting cargo not to the belly height where the cargo normally goes, but you're also having that challenge of lifting it up to the cabin as well. So lots and lots of dimensions to consider on that.
Brilliant. And we all know the PPE stories have made headline news, and it's been fantastic to see. But is IAG Cargo playing an active role in transporting the vaccines?
Yeah, absolutely. We started transporting the vaccines back in December. We were one of the first airlines to do so. And by the end of January, we'd already transported over 1 million doses. In fact, you're obviously over there in Ireland at the moment. IAG Cargo delivered the first batch of the Moderna vaccines into Dublin. We are incredibly proud to be playing our part in that fight against COVID. As you said, last year was kind of the PPE piece, and now it is all about all about the vaccines. IAG Cargo has many years of experience flying vaccines and bioscience products around the world and delivering them safely to where they need to be. We have a specialist cold chain product, Constant Climate, and our Constant Climate hubs at Heathrow, in Madrid, and in Dublin are world class. We've got an extensive global network of over 100 approved stations, and those approved stations are supported by a team of Constant Climate experts. On the vaccine front, IAG Cargo also recently signed an agreement with UNICEF to support the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines as part of their humanitarian airlift initiative.
Sounds like a really interesting project to be working on as a team. So a lot of students wouldn't consider a career in air cargo automatically. It's not something that would come into your head. It's, I want to be a pilot or air traffic controller or something like that. But why should a student come into cargo, and is air freight something that should be looked at? Should students be looking at it? Yeah,
it's a great question, Daniel, and you're right. People don't tend to grow up going, "Mummy, when I'm older, I want to go and work in air cargo." It's an area that isn't necessarily front of mind. But air cargo is definitely where the action is right now. Regardless of what's going on in the world, though, for anyone who's considering a move into air cargo or wasn't, but the question has just been raised, there are three things I can tell you. One, what we carry counts. Not just for the world and trade, but for people and for society. Secondly, it's a fascinating part of aviation to be in. My first week on the job, I was actually spent in Madrid, and I saw a lion being transported. And thirdly, and this is key, there's still plenty of scope for disruption and digitalization. And if you're looking for an area to move into career-wise, the opportunity for disruption and digitalization means that there's the future in that sector. For example, the majority of bookings in the world of air cargo, they still predominantly happen offline. The goal of delivering channel shift, that's exciting. It's a peculiarity of the industry that the world of air freight is still predominantly offline. So, a big question facing cargo carriers is how do you become e-commerce companies? And talking about digitalization, it's not just about bookings. Cargo companies are under immense pressure to digitalize their operational processes, and that's exciting as well. So, for example, how do you solve a time-intensive problem like inventory accounts? At IAG Cargo, we are constantly experimenting, from trialing the first autonomous airside vehicles at Heathrow to using drones in our warehouses. So if you want a career in aviation, if you want the opportunity to deliver change, if you want an opportunity to really make a mark, you'd be crazy not to consider air cargo. But I'm biased.
It's really interesting you say that, Matthew. A question just came in there. So they're asking, when do you see air cargo going online, and what do you think needs to happen for air cargo to become an e-commerce business?
Yeah, it's a great question you've had in from the audience there, because it is a big question. How do we deliver that shift? How do we become an e-commerce company? I think the biggest challenge, if you want to be an e-commerce business, you need to act, think, and behave like an e-commerce business. It's not just about hiring a load of developers. It's about delivering a cultural change that enables you to operate in a different way. It's about finding ways of working that aim to bring regular deployments, constant enhancements, constant value adds. The challenge, of course, is to set a long-term vision for your online offering whilst not being forced into long-term commitments. The other big thing you need to be on top of, if you really want to be an e-commerce business, is of course your analytics, data, and that's something else that I could speak about for a long time.
Brilliant. So Matthew, that's the end of my questions. I just ask you to summarize them in one line. What should a student be doing at the moment to move into aviation? Or should a student be focusing on something, or should it be negative or positive? Or
yeah, no. Oh, great final question. Attending events like today is a great starting point, because I think the thing to bear in mind with aviation, if you want to take away, is that it is such a broad, diverse industry, and your conference today reflects that. And if you're a student, coming to events like today helps you discover the breadth, the scope of the sector, and hopefully opens people's eyes to the fact that there's a lot of variety, there's a lot happening, and that it remains a really exciting sector to work in.
Brilliant. Well, that's the perfect place to end our interview today, Matthew. Thank you very much for joining me. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you ever so much, Daniel. It's been great to have the opportunity, and that hopefully next time, rather than me dialing in from London, we might even be able to be in the same place.
Be fantastic. Thanks again, Matthew.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye.